Three Rivers Archery, your longbow and recurve experts.
Today we're going to talk about arrow spine and doing some tuning at home. So at this point you should have a spine picked out, whether you did that off of a spine chart, our dynamic spine calculator online, or you gave us a call and we were able to help fine tune what you're going to need. So with this spine, we're now going to do some of these different steps to see how it's reacting to the bow and what you can do to fix it. So there's three different methods when it comes to tuning. The first one is a visual tune, and then there's also paper tuning, and then there's group tuning. So with visual tune, it's where you just shoot and you watch how it's going in flight. It's best to do it with a friend or somebody that can be elevated behind you to watch how that arrow is flying from the bow all the way to the target. And what you're looking for is you're trying to see if the arrow is kicking one way or the other, fishtailing, or if it's porpoising, where it's knock up or knock down. The next method is paper tuning. And with paper tuning, you use a device like this that holds a piece of paper firm in it so that you can put holes in it. And nice thing with these is it's checking in flight and it's recording it so you can look at it later to say, okay, that's exactly what the arrow was doing. Nice ones like this Paper Tune It have a cheat sheet down here to make it easy for you to reference what's going on. And then the third option is group tuning. And this is where you take bare shaft arrows and fletched arrows and you're shooting them together. Now what fletching does is it corrects, whether that's the spine, sloppy release, anything like that to help keep your arrow on target. So if you can get bare shafts to fly and impact at the same spots as your fletched arrows, then you know you have a really strong tune. It's nice to combine a few different of these methods together to really get your tune going. So I start with visual to get kind of that general idea. If I have a paper tune it like this with me, then I like to paper tune to make sure that each arrow is that route. And then before I fletch everything up, I like to group tune it to make sure of, okay, everything is as fine as it can be. Now, when you are tuning, I highly recommend you want to start 8 to 10 yards back, keeping it close. That way you're taking out the arrow drop with flight out of the equation. You're looking at that. And then once you get further in your tune, you start backing up and backing up to wherever your comfortable shooting range is to make sure that it is tuned the entire length of the shot. When it comes to tuning, there's a few different things that you can do with an arrow. One, you can adjust the length of the arrow, and two, you can adjust the point weight and knock weight. An arrow spine is measured off of a set point of deflection for it, and what you're going to do is if you go longer, it's going to be a weaker spine, and if you go shorter, it's going to stiffen that spine. So if you have like an arrow saw at home where you can cut your arrows and remount your inserts, it's a great tool for doing this. I recommend you cut about 1/4 inch at a time, and you start longer and you cut shorter. Now the biggest disadvantage to this is there is a point where you can't cut too short. We recommend to go about 1 inch past your draw length, so there should be about 1 inch of arrow shaft in front of the bow. That way for safety, make sure that it keeps that point out there. So that's a great tool with it, and then you can adjust your spine of where you need to be for that. If you want to say a longer arrow, if you only want to go so short or a set length, that's where you're playing around with the spine first, then your length. And then the next method is with the point weight. Now, depending where you put weight on the arrow is going to affect the spine. If you put weight on the point end of the arrow, go with a heavier field point or broadhead, it is going to weaken the spine. The reason because is that arrow has to push that weight while it's wrapping around the bow. So it takes out some of the spine of that and absorbs it there so that it's going to weaken the spine. Now if you need to stiffen the spine and you can't cut it any shorter, you can add weight to the knock end of an arrow. And now that it's pulling that weight, it helps stiffen the spine because it's not able to bend as much that way. It's got to pull it with it. Now, it is not equal balance. If you put 25 grains on the knock end versus 25 grains on the point end, it will not be an even balance. It takes less weight on the knock end to stiffen the arrow than it does on the point end. Great thing with adding point weight, especially with carbon and aluminum in particular, but wood does have a lot of adapters in that, is there's a lot of different combinations between the insert and the point to get it. So if you find out you need a 250 grain point to get your arrow tuned right, well, you can get a 100 grain brass insert and then a 150 grain point, and it's going to react the same to it. And then there's a lot of fine-tuning components that go with carbons and aluminums. But there's a lot out there where you can add to each end to adjust the weight. So be sure to play around to see what gets your arrow into that precise tune. Now, when you're tuning, what are you looking for? For a right-handed shooter, an arrow that is too stiff on spine, it's going to have the knock go to the right of the shooter. This is for a right-handed shooter. What's happening is when that arrow is coming around the bow with Archer's paradox, and as it's correcting, it's got so much spine that it overcorrects and pushes that nock to the right. Now, if it is too weak a spine, when it comes around with the Archer's paradox, it doesn't have enough spine to bring it back to center. So that's what you're trying to correct here. Now, that's called fishtailing when it's in flight. If it's too stiff, it's going to come out and it's going to go to the right, where it'll be to the left if it's too weak. The other thing that you're looking for, now for a left-handed shooter, just so it's out there, is when it's coming around, if it is too weak, it is going to go to the left. And then if it's too stiff, it'll go to the left. And if it's too weak, it'll go to the right. Now the other thing is to look for porpoising where the arrow is like this. And what that means is where the nock point might be too high. So what you're going to do is you're going to do fine tuning on where your nock point is set on your string to bring it down. I recommend go as little as a 1/16 of an inch adjustment to get that nock to come down. Now, if you're shooting bare shaft, it's definitely important to be a bit closer, just because with the point weight, it's going to drop that a lot quicker. You can get a false too high of a nock with it. But you have to be careful not to push too low, because if it goes too low, what's happening then is it's going to hit the arrow shelf and bounce up. To watch for that, look for too much wear and tear on your arrow rest. You should see a real good hit to it or even hear it when you're shooting that it's going too low. So just keep out for that. Now, the other thing that gets missed on tuning a lot is nock fit on the string. So you don't want too loose of a nock where it falls off the string, obviously, because that can be dangerous. But you don't want it so tight that it has got a death grip on the string and it's actually plucking it when you shoot. What you should have, the best way to test it, is it should snap on like that to where it can hold and not come off with a bit of movement. And then I just take 2 fingers and I just tap on the string. And it should come off clean just like that. The easiest thing you do, yes, you can change your nocks. We do not suggest altering the nock itself, but if you can, get new serving material, cut your serving off and reserve it. Now, these, for strings, there's usually not going to be set of how it measures out, because strings, being that usually made by hand and with a lot of material and strands coming together, they're not going to be set measurements. But if you know what your serving is, you can adjust that serving material to be thicker or thinner and reserve it. You get a lot of life out of your string, and then also you're really able to fine tune to your setup to know that everything's working together. So highly recommend get yourself a serving tool and serving and reserving for that. But definitely check your nock fit, because that can give you a bunch of false readings. If it's plucking the string, it's coming off there, it might do anything and everything to it, just because that's just throwing it off right from the start. Now, if you have any questions when it comes to tuning your arrow or bow, we'll be happy to answer them. Please comment below or give us a call. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you really like the video, please hit that share button to share with your friends and family. I'm Jonathan Karch with Three Rivers Archery. Thanks for watching.